Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abdika wa nabiyika mazhar rahmati rabbaniya wa linayati ilahiyya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abdika wa nabiyika mazhar rahmati rabbaniya wa linayati ilahiyya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abdika wa nabiyika mazhar rahmati rabbaniya wa linayati ilahiyya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Entering into the 36th chamber of Sufism. Assalamu alaikum to our family around the world. We have traveled into the desert of Morocco to sit with lovers of Allah, the Sufis, and I felt this would be a great place to make two videos. The first video will be explanations of the 36th chamber of spiritual retreat, which will be public. And then for those who are following the Sheikh on Patreon, we will make another private video that will not be released to the public, and I will share my 4 encounters with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam in the seclusion, inshallah hurab, today. The 36th chamber of Sufism. Why are we calling this video the 36th chamber of Sufism? The Shaolin and the Wu-Tang could be dangerous. In all martial arts schools, in all systems of internal martial arts, external martial arts, kung fu, fighting, there's always a highest form of that martial art that is not learned by everyone. In Shaolin, it was the 36th chamber. In some other martial arts, they have secret systems that they do not teach to the people, and these are the highest systems. In Tibetan yoga, they have something called highest Tibetan tantric yoga. The highest Tibetan tantric yoga is not a system that is given to all Buddhists in Tibet. So this spiritual Khalwa, the spiritual science of retreat, I'm calling it the 36th chamber of Sufism because with all of the Sufi practices that we know, fasting, making extra salat, doing extra zikr, reading Quran, meditation, reading qasids, doing the weirds, doing the zikrs, this spiritual retreat, Khalwa, is the highest form from my experience. We have been walking on this Sufi path for about 30 years, and I personally have not seen a practice in the world of Sufism, in what we call tasawwuf, in what we call taskil to nafs, that is more effective for defeating the 4 enemies of nafs, hawa, dunya, shaitan, than the spiritual Khalwa retreat. Hands down, the Khalwa spiritual retreat is the 36th chamber of Sufism. It is lost. It is a lost art. A lot of Sufi orders speak of it. You read all the Sufi masters in the past did and practiced Khalwa. You cannot name one Sufi master who was not a practitioner of Khalwa. Our beloved Sheikh Ahmad Bamba himself was in Khalwa for 5 years. He was in Khalwa. Khalwa is when you go into a small room by yourself with spiritual practices and fasting with a specific intention. Sheikh Ahmad Bamba took his Khalwa of 5 years with the intention of becoming Khadim Rasul. This is a whole nother story. The Sufis Khalwas in Morocco that I am learning are based on the first Khalwas of 7 days, Islam. I had been seeking to do a spiritual Khalwa for years and could not find a master who was generous enough to put me in Khalwa until I met our beloved Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi, Tariqa Shadaliya Yaqubi, here in Morocco. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abdika wa nabiyika ma'atali rahmati rabbaniya wa linayati ilahiya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. The 36th Chamber of Sufism is the spiritual retreat. I have said after my experience, we are all children on this path of Sufism until we take our first 7-day retreat. We are all children on this path until we take our first 7-day Khalwa, and the 7-day Khalwa is the direct path to knowing the self and to knowing Allah ultimately. It is almost impossible to know who you are until you sit alone with yourself in seclusion. People say I have knowledge of self. I say this is erroneous. You have knowledge of the mind, you have knowledge of the matrix, you have knowledge of the dunya, you have knowledge of the emotions, you have knowledge of what you have read in books, you have knowledge of your society, you have knowledge of your community. You do not have knowledge of self until you seclude yourself in a room alone with yourself and with your Lord Allah. Sensory deprivation is one of the ways to explain the Khalwa. We go into the seclusion with the intention of knowing Allah and with the intention of knowing the self. Now, the first seclusion I took was based on the intention of wusul, or union with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. I will explain that in the private video that's not for this video. But let me explain the system. When you go into Khalwa retreat, you are fasting, 1. You do the 5 prayers on time, 2. You do at least the 12 sunnah extra rakats that the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam did, 3. The Sheikh gave me 7,000 prayers on the Prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. And he gave me 700 Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abdika wa nabiyika ma'atali rahmati rabbaniya wa linayati ilahiya wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Also accompanied with reading sections of the Dalal al-Khairat every day, reading Mafatihul Bishri, Salat al-Nabi from Qadim Rasul, 1,000 Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim after every Maghrib Salat, 2 rakats for sunrise, 4 rakats for duha. It was an intense program, but explaining to you that the Khalwa has the power to defeat the 4 enemies. And let me explain this. The Khalwa is the 36th chamber of Shaolin Sufism. The 4 enemies, as we know, are Nafs, Hawa, Dunya, Shaitan. All of the 4 enemies have a weapon to defeat that enemy. The Nafs, the lower self, we have learned is defeated by fasting. Passions and desires, we have learned, Hawa, passions and desires, we have learned is defeated by silence. Attraction to the dunya, we have learned is defeated by Khalwa. And the shaitan is defeated by zikr of Allah. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. 4 different enemies are defeated by 4 different weapons. And all of these 4 weapons are practiced rigorously and intensely in the Khalwa. I was not aware of this until I experienced it. SubhanAllah, Khalwa is the highest system in Sufism. I'm telling you, it's the highest lost art of the Sufis. Many Sufi orders in America all over the planet, but how many of us are practicing the science of seclusion? And it must be under the guidance of a sheikh, because I'm telling you, the mind can be your best friend or it could be your worst enemies. I had some experiences in Khalwa in seclusion by myself where the mind was trying to be my worst enemy. The only way I could control the mind and what was coming in from the influx of past negative karmas, I was being attacked by my past. Just being honest. Negative experiences in life, tests and trials I had been through, broken relationships. I'm just putting it out there. All of that was coming at me in the retreat. But what did I do? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil waliyyil azim. I was not distracted by these suggestions of the mind, and I focused on my zikr and my prayer. Without attaching to, why did this happen? Why did I make this mistake? Why did I do this? No, do not do that when you go into retreat. Let me tell you, when you go into retreat, all of your bullshit in life, when you have time alone, it's going to come up. And it's going to want you to deal with it and address it. But it's not the time for that. It is the time to focus on why you are there. And when you focus on why you are there, when you focus on Allah, Allah is the medicine. Allah is the healer. The Sufi retreat Khalwa is the 36th chamber. Let me go back and reiterate what I was saying. It defeats the 4 enemies. In the Khalwa, you are fasting. The fasting defeats the nafs for sure. In the Khalwa, you are doing the zikr. The zikr defeats the shaitan for sure. In the Khalwa, you are in seclusion. That seclusion cuts your attachment to the matrix. And in the Khalwa, you are practicing silence, and this is defeating your passions and desires. You will not find a more complete system for defeating the lower self than spiritual Khalwa, spiritual retreat for 7 days under the guidance of a sheikh. In the retreat, you will have dreams and visions, and I'm going to tell you, I saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the companions of Badr while I was awake. Ooh, I was not supposed to say that in this video. That's going in the other video. But you can have visions while you are awake in seclusion and visions while you are asleep in dreams. And this is an indication of your station in travel. I remember about the 3rd day of retreat. Now, the sheikh is bringing food every night at sunset. It's like Ramadan. You're fasting during the day, and the sheikh will bring a tray of food to you in the retreat cell to eat. Now, the sheikh would come every night and bring me some food to eat. And then I think it was about the 3rd day, I told him my experiences. He said, "You are getting close to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ." I was like, whoa. He said, "You are drawing close to the proximity of the Prophet ﷺ." This was about the 3rd day. All of us have the intention to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalal jalaluhu. This is an inward journey. The most direct path to knowing Allah and to knowing the self is to be alone in spiritual retreat for 7 days with Allah and the self under the guidance of a true sheikh. We have been called to this blessed land of the Sufis of Morocco by Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to learn this science of Khalwa and retreat from a master. I'm not learning this from some videos. I'm not learning this science from reading books. I'm learning this science from a Sufi master who learned from a master who learned from a master who learned from a master that goes all the way back 700 years to the mountains in Morocco of the city of Rashida from Sheikh Yaqubi, who had a retreat underground. And I was blessed to go to that retreat that is underground just to see the holy place. So I'm learning a system that has been passed down from master to master to master to the living master, Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi, who has this system in his Sicily lineage for over 700 years. And also we have the science of Khalwa and spiritual retreat from Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani in our system, because the Sheikh's last name is Baghdadi. That's a whole nother science of how my Sheikh's great-grandfather walked from Morocco to Mecca to make Hajj. Then he walked from Mecca to Baghdad to sit at the shrine of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani for a year and take the secrets of the Qadiriya Tariqah, and he brought that back to Morocco. So I'm sitting in a place that is imbued with the science of not just one Sufi master. We have the science of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, the Qadiriya master, and we have the science of Sheikh Abu Hassan Shadili, the founder of the Shadiliya Tariqah, here in the hands of our living master, Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi, who is passing it to me. Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ونبيك مثل رباني يا ولناية إلهية وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We are making dua that by the blessings of Al-Fatiha, by the blessings of Salatul Yaqubi, by the blessings of Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba, Serene Sayu, Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, that we learn this science of Khalwa, that we master it and we practice it. Not only is there 7-day retreats, it goes from 7 days up to 40 days, but the beginning retreats are 7 days. We are praying that all of the disciples and students of Sheikh Abdullah Salihu Sufi Ba around the world will come to receive these teachings of Khalwa in time. When they are ready, we will master this science. This is our intention, and we will give it to our disciples and students abroad by the blessings of the Sheikh. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatihi lima uglika wa khatimi lima sabaka nasir al-haqi bil-haq والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. Barker sitting Sayu, 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 and by the blessings of the living master Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi, who I am forever grateful to for giving me these teachings. Barker Sheikh Adlan Baghdadi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. From the desert of Morocco. The Shaolin and the Wu-Tang could be dangerous.